Rise of Kingdoms has a piloting problem, but here's the truth. Banning pilots alone will not save this game. If Lilith only removes pilots without fixing the root problems, players will just keep finding new ways to abuse the system, and the game will stay stuck between unfair competition and burnout. A lot of people think piloting is the real disease that causes all these issues we have in Rock, but in reality, piloting is only the symptom. The real disease is the game design. You see, to stay competitive in Rise of Kingdoms, you have to make it your priority. High uptime during KVK, often staying awake for more than 24 hours, or multiple days where you do nothing but play the game, with your personal goal being more kill points. A number that by itself is not very meaningful, but gives you high status in the community. Even when there are no fights, you still have the opportunity to use pilots for barbarian chaining or repetitive daily tasks that can take up to 2 hours per day. So, should pilots be banned? Yes, 100%. Paying someone else to play your account is not normal, and it gives massive unfair advantages. But does that solve the bigger problem? No, because if the game still pressures people to treat Rock like a second job, the symptoms that caused piloting are still there and will develop as another disease, just in a different form. So let's talk about how we can cure the symptom. To cure something, we first have to find a diagnosis. What exactly caused so many players to start piloting? You see, in Rise of Kingdoms, money talks, and it is extra important to invest a decent chunk of change if you plan to be a rally or garrison lead for your kingdom. But when those accounts go offline and your kingdom is unable to launch decent defenses or attacks, you will have a huge disadvantage against the opposing kingdom. So early on, players started to help their friends out and log into those key accounts when the original owner could not play anymore. This then evolved from just key accounts to a broader range of accounts. But since there weren't enough people anymore to cover all accounts, kingdoms started to look for outside help to keep the accounts online. But that help was not free. And as you know, in any competitive space, once someone gains an advantage, everyone else copies them because they do not want to fall behind. So what is Lilith doing against pilots, since piloting is prohibited under Rise of Kingdoms terms of service? Well, after a long time of turning a blind eye, they have started to crack down on the problem. At first, they only gave public shaming of those accounts who used outside help to stay online. Then recently, they started to prohibit outside logins to send out troops, which is already a huge step in the right direction. But why did Lilith turn a blind eye to the problem for such a long time? You see, Rise of Kingdoms has always been a huge pay-to-win game, trying to make money, which by itself is fine. They are transparent with the purchases in-game, and the players know it's a pay-to-win game. Pilots, however, completely shatter that concept. First, you have the unfair advantage from something not purchasable in-game, and then second, you have lost revenue for Lilith games. Yes, you heard me right. Piloting causes less revenue. Many people think banning piloting will decrease Lilith's revenue, since many whales who currently run almost exclusively piloted accounts will stop spending on those accounts, which is a valid take, and I agree that in the short term, some high spenders used to the pilot system will stop or reduce their spending. However, I strongly believe that if the right actions are taken to ensure a more enjoyable experience in the long term, Lilith will earn way more money than is lost in the short term. Additionally, many players buy resources from in-game sellers, which Lilith has been trying to crack down on too recently, by introducing resource buying events like the Oasis Bazaar, even though admittedly they are not really doing a great job at it. But there's a huge chunk of revenue not going to Lilith that they could capitalize on instead. So what needs to be done to solve the symptom once and for all, so no more diseases can develop? I think the game needs to focus on a more healthy gaming experience, more automation for boring tasks, and less opportunities to exploit the system. Let's be realistic, even the most hardcore, loyal Rise of Kingdoms players are not going to be online 16 hours a day for 7 days straight during KVK, with maybe the exception of content creators. So why is the system set up in a way that makes Kingdoms demand this from the players to stay competitive and win? Rise of Kingdoms should be a game again, not a job where you clock into your shift or a 24/7 obligation. That's my take. Pilots should be banned, but if they change nothing else, the real problem is still sitting right there.